Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about the open elective paper creative writing, and I'm going to start off with unit 1.2, that is ways to tap the creative potential. I'll be sharing my slide with you. I hope all of you can see the slide. So we'll go one step at a time. Okay, so we'll be starting off with what is creative writing. It is very important to know what is creative writing before we move on. Now, any kind of writing that we write, like say when you take a study note, or say you are taking a dictation, or you are reading and writing down something, cannot be considered as a creative writing. According to the general definition of creative writing, it is any form of writing that is written more from the idea of entertaining the reader rather than informing them. So it is basically a writing that comes from your imagination when you let your imagination loose, rather than being something that is factual or something informative. So the purpose of creative writing is not to inform someone but to entertain your audience. Wikipedia defines creative writing as any form of writing that goes out of the bound of professional, journalistic, academic, or technical writing. So, any writing that you are doing for the purpose of your academic career, like say when you are writing an answer to a question, or say if you are taking a report, or say you are doing any kind of technical writing, like writing an email, cannot be considered to be a creative writing. Okay, so creative writing can be developed. The skills of creative writing can be developed, but more than often creative writing is something that becomes inborn. You can always hone your skills of writing with respect to creative writing. So creative writing is basically something that helps your thoughts and expressions on paper. So fiction, non-fiction, poetry, drama, autobiography, memoirs, prose, novel, and all of these can be different forms of creative writing. You can be creative at technical writing as well. So what I want to tell you is, when it comes to technical writing, not all technical writings are creative, but you can be creative at your technical writing. Like say when you are writing an email to your professional, you can be creative enough to put forth your expression and thought, but there is a certain restriction when it comes to technical writing or journalistic or professional writing. You cannot go beyond those set rules and regulations. But when it comes to creative writing, say if you're writing a story or a fiction or a non-fiction, you can go to an extent of using your imagination, using your ideas, and you need not necessarily hold them back to any you need not necessarily hold it back to your thoughts and your process. Moving on, we will be discussing the different types of creative writing that we have. So the different types of creative writing, as you can see on my screen, first would be poetry. I'm very sure all of you at one or the other point of your lives have come across a poetry in your school, in your college days. So poetry is the most popular form of creative writing. It is normally considered to be a easier type of creative writing. It includes any other forms, right? The sonnets, the haikus, the limericks, the micro poetry, and so on. So this kind of creative writing, as now for many of us who may not be into creative writing, all forms of poetry may seem similar. We may not be able to differentiate between what is a haiku, what is a sonnet, what is an epic. But then when it comes to poetry, there are different types of creative poetry that you can write. So my suggestion is, if you are someone who loves poetry, if you are someone who loves to jot down writing, what you can do is you can think of certain lines, you can just jot it down for the time being, for you to put your creative thought into words. So say if you have gone out somewhere and you see something that interests you, or an emotion or a feeling that you want to jot down, it is always advisable to jot it down on a paper and a pen. Nowadays we use mobile phones. You can use your sticky notes, or you can use your note on your phone to jot it down, so that it turns into a poetry later on. So poetry is also a medium that is used by a lot of writers on social media these days. On Facebook, on Instagram, you will find people writing quotes or poetries as well, and it is always advisable that you can let your imagination loose when you are writing a poetry as well. The next form would be fiction. So fiction is any narration where the events and actions are made out of your imagination. It's a term that takes under it forms like novels, short stories, novellas, or any prose. So any series that you watch on a Netflix or an Amazon Prime or a Hotstar is also a part of a fiction or writing, because it's a script that has been written by someone who has used his or her imagination to do a creative writing. So novels and stories are the most readable forms of creative writing. Again, I'm sure all of you during your school days, during your college days, you have read a story or a novel, at least when you watch a motion picture, like if you're watching a movie or you're watching a series, that is also a part of your creative writing. So the art of storytelling and the ability to conceive lifelike characters plays a very major role in this form of creative writing, because what you observe around you, normally people who write fictions or short stories are the ones who are very good observers, someone who has seen life, someone who minutely observes people around. So these people normally become novelists and short story writers. You can also try doing it, like say if you take a character in your mind, say your best friend, you can observe your best friend, you can observe his or her habits and everyday business, and then you can think of making your best friend as a character in one of your writing. Fiction can be presented in many genres such as adventure, fantasy, children's book, realism, etc. Fantasy and adventure, as you know, these days are very, very popular realm of creative writing. A lot of people do even earn a lot of money with respect to that creative writing. You do watch on Netflix and Amazon Prime, you watch those adventure series. These are part of your creative writing. Moving on, non-fiction. Non-fiction is factual, but then you can add a lot of elements into it. Non-fiction is true and accurate account of something, but these can be your memoirs, autobiographies, it can be your journals, history, travelogues. Now travelogues are becoming very popular. You must have seen people are making vlogs as well. So there was a point of time where people would write about the experiences. So like say if you're traveling somewhere, you can jot down about your experience, the nitty-gritties of your travel, from where you started, what you did. That can be a part of your non-fiction but creative writing, because you are adding certain imagination to it as well. So you are not restricting it to a very high and dry kind of writing, rather you are using a lot of elements. Now the one thing you have to keep in mind even when it comes to non-fiction creative writing is you have to arrange these factual accounts and truths in a way that it makes sense and appeals to reader, which requires a great deal of thinking and imagination. Moving on, we have script writing. As I was just telling you, all the series that you watch on television or on Netflix, the feature films or the TV shows are part of script writing. There has to be a script before a director takes it up and starts shooting a movie. So it is often a freelance profession. Script writers and screen writers are often paid by producers to write scripts for a certain concept or idea. So screenwriters come up with original plots for their scripts and approach producers in the hope that they are sold and optioned out. Many times, scripts are not even accepted; they are rejected. But the best of the scripts are what you see on screen. So, if you're trying to be a script writer, that is also a very good profession with respect to creative writing. Moving on, copywriting is something that helps create content for various marketing communications. You must have seen there are people who are hired as copywriters. They basically include the art of writing text for advertising, marketing purposes. They help create billboards, brochures, catalogs, jingles, magazine advertisements that you see when you turn the page of a magazine. Also script for commercials, like say a commercial that has caught your attention, be a Colgate ad or some other product ad that you have been humming, is a part of the copywriting creative. Moving on, the final one would be blogging. Very popular these days during technological outburst, rather. All of us are bloggers, all of us do love shooting. So blog writing is basically a website that publishes online and impart information, share opinion and personal stories. There are best of the bloggers across the world who are so popular that millions of people read their blogs. So blogging is a very, very popular medium to gather and impart information as well. It takes on different genres. It could be a part of someone's business or profession. Now, how to master this skill to become a better writer? As I said, you cannot be nurtured to be a creative writer. It should come from within, but there are certain skills. If you want, you can be a creative writer as well. That is a technical ability. So technical ability comes as a list of skills for creative writing, but like any other hobbies, fields, activity, anything that you want to call it, this basic technical knowledge is necessary in creative writing as well. So writing comes naturally when you have a command over language or multiple languages. It is always advisable to know multiple languages. So most writers, when they work with one chief language, they feel most comfortable. So technical abilities are the easiest skill to learn. How you should be publishing, where should you publish, what are the hashtags you are using, whom are you tagging, and so on. Now, talent and imagination. Talent, as you know, is inborn. Imagination too is inborn, but any of us can be talented. All of us are talented. All of us are imaginative enough. So something you can nurture is that you can actually observe people very closely. You can start writing a thing so that your writing skills are developed. Patience, persistence, and a lot more patience. Obviously, patience is a key to success when it comes to creative writing. You cannot be a good writer or a world famous writer or a top bookseller in one day. It takes a lot of patience. You may not like your writing after 5 days after you have written. So practice patience, and obviously read a lot. You should, as I told you, you can carry a pen and a paper, or you can always use the note on your phone to find out. You can always record your voice as well on your phone, because with technology we have so much things accessible to us always. Whatever ideas come to your mind, whatever you see, make sure you are taking a note of all this. Now, what are the career prospects? Because you all are students from different disciplines, I'm sure you are eager to know what are the prospects of being understanding creative writing. So I'll just quickly tell you what are the what are the jobs that you can be into if you are a good creative writer. First of all, advertising copywriter. As you know that you need not necessarily be a student of humanities to be a advertising copywriter. Anyone can be an advertising copywriter. Even an engineer or a doctor can be a copywriter. You can be an arts administrator as well. That is, you are part of different organizations where they provide creative writing as one of the essential part. And very importantly, guys, if you have seen around on the internet as well, you need not necessarily belong to any one particular field to be a good creative writer. You can be a creative writer in your own field as well. So to be a creative writer, you need not necessarily hone one particular skill. So you can be a creative director as well. Okay, so what is a creative director? A creative director is basically a person who makes sure that a content that has come to you is designed properly. Okay, you can be an editorial assistant as well. You can be a lexicographer. These are different areas. Newspaper journalist, obviously newspaper journalist and magazine journalist is a little specific, but in this world of internet, when all of us are blogging and vlogging, it is very easy to be a creative writer. Now, there are certain aspects, there are certain jobs that are indirectly related to creative writing. That is an academic librarian, a film director, an information officer, marketing executive, primary school teacher, public librarian, public relations officer, secondary school teacher, and so on. Now, to write is to invoke your new ways of exploring ideas, exploring thoughts, and uncovering creative possibilities. When we write, what happens is our brain begins to think in terms of prose and narrative, structure and meaning, not merely patterns and dynamics, connections between invisible forces. Writing can unlock the entire new pattern of thinking for us. It is similar to how we expose ourselves to new languages, cultures, or even tools, influences, and thinking. So when an architect looks at a room, I'll just give you an example. They see everything behind the aesthetic, the way the walls are constructed, how everything is supported and frames, the subtle details almost everyone will overlook. Similarly, when a writer looks at a room, like if you're a creative writer, you can think of the details that nobody else can see. That is the best part of creative writing. What the normal people see, you don't see that. What you see is, you see extra. You see that the room has to tell a story, the furniture has to tell a story, the people in the room has to tell a story, the characters, their stories, and how it all relates to interweaving moments and narratives. So writing is not, it's not merely a way to turn your thoughts into tangible constructs, but it also is a way to change how we think, what we can. You can think of writing as a cognitive technology. We used to think in ways other than how we typically do. In our brains, thoughts are presented and networks between many different concepts. When we write, thoughts have to mutate into something we see on the page in a more, in a more structured and transferable way. The same goes for drawing, dancing, designing, coding, playing music, and speaking in other languages. So when we do these things, they require ideas to transform into intangible, ill-defined networks of relationships, into more constructed representations of themselves. It's through this transformation that our thinking itself changes, the way we look into things, the way we think about things. So when we conduct these things, not only we do need to have the ideas behind them, but we also find many ways to transfer remember and communicate through them through written formats, spoken words, or other tangible means. So the tools we use to conduct these work also influences our thinking as well. So the architect who relies on mathematical formulas and softwares to conduct their business is more likely to think in terms of equations and structures. But an artist, a creative writer who expresses himself in cubism is likely to see, things in a more abstract vantage point of view. Say writers who see the connection among things and the invisible spaces between them. So the power of writing, all of you must have heard the pen is mightier than the sword. So the power of writing is that it enables us to have insights and think in ways that were previously difficult or impossible to have in any activities beneficial in this regard. But is writing which enables us to quickly capture our thoughts as they occur, to reflect on them in such a manipulative way. So writing captures these fleeting concepts we call ideas, and ideas are what we put into words and we put into writing and put them bare in front of us to explore, manipulate, and to have a better understanding. So I hope all of you have understood what is creative writing. So in my personal opinion, creative writing can always be developed if someone loves reading. So it's not necessarily that you pick up a novel and you finish it in one day or two. Rather, you can go slow. You can think of what ignites your passion when it comes to reading. What are you passionate about? So if it is creativity, if it's something that you like reading, something you like writing, you should not let your creativity be bounded by formal writing. Rather, you can let your creativity loose. You can let it let your imagination be a part of your creative self as well. So we'll keep it to this. Since today was our introduction class, I hope you all have understood what is creative writing in the first place, what is creativity in the first place. So please take up your assignments at the end of this discussion, and we will be having more of classes in order for you to understand it better. So with that note, we will end today's unit 1.1, how to tap your creative skills. Hope you all have understood how you can hone your skills with respect to creativity. That would be all from my side. Thank you.